If you'd like to see how I used an adorable new collection from the Not Too Shabby shop, then stick around and let's have some crafty fun. Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. Today I have the Fresh from the Coop collection from Not Too Shabby shop. It is adorable with chickens, and I have chickens. I love all things chickens. So there are 2 of each design. They are double-sided. One side has a chicken pattern, and the B side has either gingham or polka dots. So it's kind of keeps along with the kind of homespunny farm feel of the chickens. This is one of their February releases, and I am excited to be a guest designer for them this month and get to play with this collection. So just, cute little quaint patterns and colors. Oh, look at those baby chicks. So that is the 6x6 pad. And then there is also ephemera that goes with it. And we'll kind of spread these out. Various images, wishing wells, a little counter with baking stuff, a little chicken baking, dried herbs. And I love that the ephemera packs come with different sizes, and it comes with focal images as well as some kind of accent images like the little rolling pins or the bread that can be used. So a ton of adorable ephemera in this collection. So I am going to be using the paper and ephemera to make a few projects today. And then I also am excited because I was able to snag the Shabby Snips stamp or the die set from Not Too Shabby, and then I got the birthday stamp set that went with it. And then I know that this was designed by LV Handcrafted, and I know she has some printables on her website that I will link below that you can use these dies with as well. So I was excited to be able to snag this. As of the time I'm filming this, it was back in stock. So if it's something you're interested, I'll link it below. Snag it while you can. I don't know how long it will last this time around. So, but the die cuts out, you can stamp the images, and the die cuts out all the sentiments. All the sentiments at one time. And then there are some kind of stitched pieces here that can be matting layers for the sentiments, and you've got some different kind of edges that go around those as well in some different sizes. So I just think it's really fun and really handy, and makes card making, I think, a little bit easier. So I'm excited to play with these and these super cute chickens. So I'm going to figure out what we're going to be making today, and we'll get crafting. I brought in some card sketches today to help me with my cards. I'm making A2 cards today. I have that kind of polka dot mat. I'm going to do a double matting layer. The polka dot is 4 by 5 1/4, and then the black cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So there'll just be a small white border of card left around my matting layers. And then I'm kind of working backwards. I'm starting with the black mats for the pieces on my card. So based on trying to size it with my mats there, my cardstock mats, the vertical one is 1 7/8 by 4, and then I cut the horizontal one. It's the same width, 1 7/8 but it's by 3.5 inches long. And so then my pattern paper will be a quarter inch less, just so that there's a small black matte border showing. So that red chicken pattern that's going vertical is 1 3/4 by 3 7/8, and then the horizontal chicken pattern is 1 3/4 by 2 3/8. And then I did die cut a circle out of the center of my black mat there that I'm going to be using to kind of house my ephemera piece. So just getting everything layered together using my Barely Art glue. This paper was so fun. I had so much fun with these. I like the combination of like some of the vibrant colors, like the reds and the blacks and the whites, but then the ones with like the neutrals, the tans, the yellows, and with the whites as well. They make good contrast to each other. Teresa always does a really good job curating the patterns for the collections. I did decide to go ahead and add a little bit of scrap cardstock underneath that vertical strip, since it is overhanging the kind of 2 layers of paper in that horizontal strip. The Not Too Shabby cardstock or pattern paper is like nice and thick. It's a good quality paper, and so that with my cardstock kind of made a thicker layer that I didn't want to have drooping on either side of. So you can see my black circle that I had cut out of the cardstock mat with my ephemera piece there, and I am just using some more scrap cardstock. I'm going to add a little bit kind of in the bottom right of the circle where it's hanging off just the top layer, and then where it's hanging off both of the layers, I kind of doubled up. So there are 4 little pieces of cardstock there that I'm adding, kind of made into a little triangle shape, and then that should help my circle sit pretty flat. And then we'll add my cute little chicken ephemera making the salad. And then I'm going to use the stamp set, and I'm going to use the left hand side, which is kind of like the general birthday sentiments. The right hand side is a little more snarky, if you will. It's kind of got, more funny ones about age and things like that. So I'm just going to go with kind of the normal birthday sentiments, and then also the happy birthday. So I'm trying to make sure that I space the happy birthday far enough off to the side that it's not going to not interfere with the sentiments when I go to die cut them. Just using oils on my hand to kind of condition the stamp a little bit, since I haven't used it before. And then I'm using my stamping platform just to make sure I can get a good image. And you'll see where it's not stamping really well in the center, and that's because I'm using my hand. I was too lazy to move my trimmer out of the way, and so I wasn't getting like a smooth stamp on, or I wasn't getting even pressure with my ink pad onto the door of my stamping platform. So now that I've moved my trimmer out of the way, it is much easier and everything stamps much clearer. So don't be lazy, don't be Beth. Move your trimmer out of the way so that you can completely open your stamp platform. So now I'm just kind of making sure that the dies are going to fit around the images or the sentiments that I stamped. I went over to my die cutting station and cut those out. I also cut some black mats that will go behind the different pieces. So I decided to use the one that says "Hope you have a special day." And I was trying to figure out if I could fit that and the happy birthday on the front of the card. But ultimately, I decided just to do "Hope you have a special day," and then we'll do the happy birthday on the inside. And again, because I had popped up the red strip the red chicken strip a little bit, I need to build up my sentiment piece where it overhangs all the different layers. And so then once that's kind of leveled out, I can glue that down. And I do decide that I want to add a little bit something extra. Here I decided I'm doing the inside first. And I wanted to put the sentiment down, but I also had a scrap piece of that polka dot paper, and I thought I'd layer it at the bottom and then kind of layer the sentiment on it. And then there's still plenty of room for people to write a message if they choose. And then I decided I wanted a little bit more black on the front, And so I took a scrap and I'm just creating a little banner to go up in the top right of the card, and I just feel it kind of helps kind of pull that black all the way through and helps the black pop. So that was card 1. Card 2, I am using My Favorite Things sketch. It's MFT WSC 352, and I will link the sketches that I'm using in the description box below for you if you would like to download those. The links take you to my Pinterest board with the sketches, or it takes you to Pinterest where I have the sketches housed, so you can download them from there completely free. And this time I'm bringing in 2 different chicken patterns and then a blue gingham. So I did a mat with the dark blue. It's 4 and an eighth by 5 3/8, and then my larger chicken mat is 4 by 5 1/4. And then for the inner piece there, my mat is 3 3/4 by 3 1/4, and then the pattern paper is 3 1/2 by 3. And then my strip that goes across, it is 1 1/2 by 4. And I'm not matting the strip. I want it to be an accent, but not necessarily stand out. But then I did want to mat this chicken pattern that's going on that rectangular accent, or the rectangular element, because it is like a 2 white backgrounds together and then 2 busy patterns. So I wanted to make sure that that popped. So I just used that blue again. And you can see that I had die cut a circle out of that blue mat. And that's what my ephemera piece is going to rest on. And this time it's a chicken with a basket of berries. And then the sentiment I'm using is "You deserve all the very best." So this could be a birthday card. It could be just a thinking of you card, kind of general. And then I decided to bring in a scrap of that blue gingham and add that kind of to the top right of the rectangle, just to pull that light blue in a little bit more. And then, as always, I do like to decorate the inside of the card, so I had a scrap left of that blue cardstock, so I'm just going to pop that on the inside, and my second card is done. So my third card, I pulled this sketch thinking it would be a great way to use up some of the scraps that I had already had. So it's Card Sketch 22 by Dawn Griffith, I think is what it says on the watermark. And if you know me, if you've watched my videos before, I tend to do sketch Operation Right Home sketch 154 in this case, but I decided to mix it up a little bit. So we're going to do this one. And I was trying to figure out what size I wanted to do the square. So again, I did the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inch yellow cardstock mat with the 4 by 5 1/4 inch blue gingham. And then I ended up making my squares of pattern paper 1 1/4 inches, and then the yellow cardstock that went behind it for the mats was 1 1/2 inches. So I have 2 different chicken patterns that I'm using, and then I decided I was hoping to use scraps, but I ended up bringing in another whole sheet of a polka dot because I wanted a little bit of contrast. So that tan polka dot banner piece ends up being 1 3/4 by 4 1/2, and so then the mat ends up being 2 by like 4 3/4. But I just thought the tan was kind of a good contrast with the blue and the white. And then once I get all these pieces like glued to the matting, I really struggled with how I wanted to arrange them because I wanted to add a happy birthday sentiment, from the stamp set and stamp and die set that I was using. And so I was trying to figure out how to lay it out, and I don't know why, but it ended up being a struggle. So I cut most of that out because I think it was like 3 minutes of me just moving things around. So you may see it jump from one position to another, and that is why I didn't think you needed to watch 3 minutes of my indecision. Because up to this point, like, I'm good. I know exactly where things are going. And then when I'm trying to dry fit and position these guys here, the sketch shows them kind of in the middle, but then I don't really have a good room for my sentiment. So I tried moving them up, and then we'll go ahead and stamp the happy birthday so that I can kind of use it to figure out where things are going to go. And then I also use the die set to cut a yellow cardstock matting piece that's going to go behind the happy birthday. And here was my struggle. So you can see I was trying to do it at the bottom and it didn't really work. I tried it in the middle. So I ended up deciding to just go ahead and do my sentiment at the top and then the squares kind of towards the bottom. It just looked cleaner. And then I did want to put a piece of ephemera there in the center. So now that I have finally figured out where they're going to go, I can get everything glued down. I love how the die set gives you the matting layers as well as, cuts out the sentiment. Because, yes, you could easily cut a rectangle with your trimmer, but I do like the stitched detailing on it. So I add a little chicken with a wooden spoon on the front, and then we'll add a scrap to the inside, and this card is finally done. So my last project is not cards at all. I had 2 pieces of scrap heavy duty cardstock that I am cutting down to 3 1/4 by 7. And I have my pattern paper, and I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces from each pattern that are 3 by 3 inch square. And we are going to be making Post-it note holders. I thought these would make some cute Post-its. And again, was thinking I could use scraps, but ultimately decided that I really liked the dark background for the white cardstock that I was using. So I am bringing out my scoreboard, and I am scoring at 3 1/4 inches in from both sides. So just 3 1/4 in from one side, and then either 3 1/4 in from the other side, or just bump up to 3 1/2. And then can glue my pattern panels down here. And I do like to use a strong glue when I am gluing these because I want to make sure it's nice and durable. So the double-sided score tape would work really well, or strong wet glue. And then I pull in some scraps to cover the spines, and so the scrap pieces end up being 3/8 of an inch by 3 inches. And it's not necessary. I just had some extra scraps left, and so I tried to find some patterns that would coordinate with the papers that I used, and it just adds a little something extra there on the top. And then I'm using 3-inch Post-it notes, like the 3M type. I actually get mine off Amazon, and I can link that down in the description box below for you if that's something you're interested in. I make a lot of these for craft shows, so I tend to buy a bigger package of Post-it notes because it's more economical. So I use a chicken with a basket of eggs and a chicken with a jar for my 2 pieces of ephemera. And then I do add glue to the very last piece or the backing of the Post-it. Make sure it's centered and glue that in. And we'll do that for both of the pads. And then these are done. I think they turned out so cute, so simple. Like I said, I love chickens. They make me happy, just like my backyard chickens. So here are the 3 cards that I made and then the 2 Post-it holders. Hope you guys enjoyed and got some inspiration. This collection is just adorable and so fun to use. I will be sure to link it in the description box below for you if you are interested. And then also, like I said, if you like the die or the die and stamp set, that is available again, so you can check that out as well. Thank you, Not Too Shabby and Jamie, for letting me guest design this month. I had so much fun. And thank you all for your time, and hope you all have a very crafty day.